What's up, folks? It's Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Lair to provide you my thoughts on the first part of the two-part finale of Twin Peaks Season 3, The Revival. This is episode 17 out of 18. I've got 18 ready to go, but I wanted to stop and kind of gather my thoughts on what I just saw, because what I just saw is mind-blowing, especially for... I can only imagine, like, actual, like, lifelong Twin Peaks fans. Like, what you just saw was... it was like a threading of everything that you've ever wanted to see out of this series, to kind of put it all together and then sort of catapult us somewhere else, which is, I'm assuming, episode 18. All right, so it starts out with us, like, back in Twin Peaks. Doppel Cooper is on his way... And everything that we assumed was going to happen in the final episode, all of a sudden started happening, right? He shows up at the sheriff's station, then like all the pieces start coming into play, and of course there's a lot of weird shit that goes on. But Lucy of all people is the one that finally takes Doppel Cooper down, and then we see like the weird like Shadow Men show up and like start doing their weird bloody thing, bring out the Bob egg, and of course we've got the folks that were in the prison downstairs that are already up in the room, including the Twin Peaks Iron Fist, which is like the guy with the green glove, right? I knew he was going to play a role, but I thought his role was going to be to fight Doppel Cooper, but it turns out his role was to finally destroy, seemingly, Bob. Bob is now finally dead. We saw Bob obviously possess Leland, kill his daughter, and then ultimately possess Cooper after he was released from Leland's body. And we assumed that like this was like an entity that was not going to go away. This is the sort of thing that could not be resolved. But of course, Deus Ex Machina stepped in, and the magic green glove was responsible for destroying Bob. And even though it was like, I mean, so as far as the effects go, like the effects are very practical. They're very much like a lot is like in-camera effects. It's David Lynch playing with film, which is what he's always done. He's played with filmmaking. That is his thing. That is who he is. That is why he is a name. That is why he is a legend in filmmaking. And that is why this is such a captivating series. Ultimately, because it is his 18-hour sequel to Fire Walk with Me and his original Twin Peaks series. So a lot of it is done like in the camera. But it was like a really interesting sort of portrayal of like this Bob entity that has like been released upon the world, and then ultimately we had that conflict represented that finally took him down, and it was very satisfying for me. I'm sure it was for a lot of you as well, kind of just seeing it play out. But again, I feel like everything that we're seeing in like the first third of the show, it felt like what I thought I would see at the end of the series. And so what we saw in the rest of this episode, episode 17, was just mind-blowing. Like, you've got, of course, first of all, a great reunion, right? You've got a great reunion of Cooper with, like, all the characters that you've wanted him to be reunited with the entire series. But most importantly, Gordon, right? Gordon starts in the beginning telling us that Judy is, in fact, the name of some, like, dark entity that Major Briggs had found out about, and was sort of at the heart of like everything that they were trying to resolve throughout the series. Through everything that's been going on in the background, essentially, has been like all about this like entity Judy that led to the Blue Rose Project, and like whatever was going on with the other agents that disappeared, and like Jeffries and then Chris, I forget the other agent that disappeared. So Judy is sort of like the thing, right? It's like the entity, the the main antagonist, or at least the source of all evil that is the main adversary in the show. Anyway, so that's revealed anyway. So Gordon's such a huge player here, and the fact that he wound up being one of the three people that like goes that we follow beyond the sheriff's station makes a lot of sense, because he is a key player. What we also saw in the sheriff's station was that actual Diane, real Diane, reemerges. She is this like weird, like eyeless, dolphin speaking woman. I had speculated in the last episode that Diane would be alive somewhere, given what we saw in the end of the last episode with Audrey Horne, and the fact that she was imprisoned, and therefore, like, I knew Diane would reemerge, and she did. She reemerged as the Dolphin Woman, whatever. And then it appears that her and Coop might be having a thing, after this. But then again, Coop has a family too, with Dougie's family. It's all very complicated. I'm not going to think about it right now because I have yet to see episode 18. Anyway, so I'm glad to see Diane actually black. There was so much to process there, but then it just took us in a completely unexpected direction. Okay, so Cooper, I think the place that Cooper, Gordon, and Diane went to was the warehouse that James was the security guard for, if I'm not mistaken. Him and the Iron Fist of Twin Peaks, the Green Glove guy. I think that's where they went. Anyway, so then they go there, and then there's a door, and then just Cooper goes to the door, and then there's a one-armed man. He gives the Fire Walk With Me speech that we've heard throughout this series. Haven't really heard it much in this one. I think we might have heard something throughout this series, but definitely heard it a lot in the old stuff. And then they go into that same house that the dirty bearded men were in, and then they go to see teapot, or like giant crock pot David Bowie, Jeffries. And then Cooper, like, I don't know, he's then led into the past. So now all of a sudden there's time travel, and Cooper is now in Fire Walk With Me. So like the scenes in black and white with Laura Palmer, dark, black and white, in the dark. That was weird. I'm trying to put it together as I'm talking. Anyway, it's those are straight out of Fire Walk With Me. Those are scenes from Fire Walk With Me, from Laura Palmer's final night when she gets off of the motorcycle, and then she goes essentially to what will become her final moments. I remember that scream that she had in those moments before all that went down with James, and like how it sort of came out of nowhere, but it appears as though she saw Cooper in the shadows, and that kind of freaked her out or something. Anyway, Cooper intervenes that night and takes her away from like her path to death. And then we see the opening scenes from the original series where we see the dead body of Laura Palmer, and we see the horns. Not the horns. It was Piper Laurie, and then the Asian woman who was the owner of the sawmill, I think it was. Anyway, like those were the first scenes from the series, and then we see Laura Palmer's body disappear, essentially implying that like Laura Palmer was never killed. The heart of this series, right, never happened. I mean, obviously we've come to understand now that the fireman was tasked, I guess, to protect Earth or something, our dimension maybe, from like the Bob entity, which was destroyed by the Green Glove guy. And Laura was sent as sort of a way of kind of keeping him at bay. And this whole thing, like, stopped his death from happening. And then we had a scene, I think in the present, where Laura Palmer's mom, which we now know to be possessed by some entity related to all this evil, maybe even maybe even the evil entity itself that's been at the heart of everything, Judy. Maybe Judy's inside of Laurel Palmer's mom. We saw Laurel Palmer's mom, the possessed one, in the present, like stabbing at the photo, as like knowing that like Laura Palmer had survived as a result of this like temporal shift, you know, with Cooper in the past saving her, and this dark entity wanting Laura Palmer dead, and so she's like stabbing at her photo in the present. Anyway, go back to the past. Cooper's leading Laura Palmer to that I guess that portal to the fireman, right? The guy that initially created her or whatever. And then she disappears and there's a scream, and then we fade to black and it's the red curtains, and then we get the music. I think it's the same music from the original series. I think the woman that's singing is the original woman from way back in the day. And then the episode ends. And now I'm going to watch episode 18, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the entire series and how I feel about it. So far, I'm really liking this finale. It's really satisfying me so far. And like, if this were to be it, just if it ended here at the 17, I'd be happy. But I think I'm going to be even happier in the next hour. So catch episode 18 right after this one. So thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. Thanks for checking out my video. If you haven't already subscribed, you can do so down there. And as always, I'd like to remind you, if you haven't already, put an X in that box, ladies and gentlemen, because ain't nobody checking me. Take care. Bye-bye.